And I think what you just mentioned is really interesting in terms of the change over the years for women in architecture. And you mentioned that the percentage of female members of the Chartered Architects of RIBA has grown from 17 to 22.
Yes.
Just within a few years' time. So I would actually invite all of you to join this discussion because you all came into the profession at different times and in different parts of the world. So have you witnessed this kind of change for women in your past experience, you know, as a practicing architect? Because once I watched a lecture by a very renowned female architect in the UK, and she mentioned one of her horrible experience back in the 1970s that she was not allowed to join a project presentation just because she was a woman. Shocking, right? So, but now I'm sure it's completely different. So, what are your views on, you know, the opportunities for women as practicing architects now?
Well, from my career experience, although I didn't experience such a dramatic event as you described, but I did experience that when I was at my early age of my professional time, when I interviewed with the company, I described that I did a presentation for a project. And the interviewer basically, he was very shocking by saying, "Oh, I can't believe you." So my case is ultimately he hired me, but my fellow classmates at university, she went to US and she did a similar interview. Actually, she was accused by providing the fake information, and she was like rejected, and with a bad record. So.
That's bad.
Yeah, that's bad.
But it did happen. You're so right. It has happened. I've heard so many horror stories about how the sort of questions that women were asked and nobody would ever ask a man. And fortunately, it doesn't happen anymore, but it used to happen a lot.
And the little things like when I often, maybe that's not just one or two occasion, when people called me and would call me Mr. Are you Mr. Cheng? I think by assumption that
Yes,
I should be a male. But so, that's okay. I think that's okay. I think what we're doing here is to show to the business community that the profession is not only suitable for men, but also suitable for women.
Yeah.
I was going to ask Cheng how she felt about spending, establishing her practice so young and trying to make it work. Was there a lot of barriers? Just a quick question. Was there a lot of barriers for you?
Our practice has been 10 years. It's our 10th year last year. I guess because I used to work in the UK at Foster, I did think the working environment in the UK are quite different from the one in China. In the UK, I think I wouldn't be able to start my own practice, but maybe also because I'm international there. And then when I started here, I think it's similar to Michelle. I wasn't a long planner, like I didn't really plan to have a practice. I just had this project opportunity, so I decided to do it. And also, half a year when I started in 2010, I guess I was just fed up with the long hours I had put in Foster, on a break and stuff like that. And then started this project in Beijing. And then my friend, Jack, we went to Butler together. We also used to work Foster together. He came to visit. And I just encouraged him to quit his job at Foster. Obviously, everyone easy to quit, long hours. So yeah, he actually quit. And as soon as he came, I felt this huge responsibility on my shoulder, and I need to be serious about this practice because not only just me, playing around, with the projects. Actually, another friend who doesn't know anything because he's an English guy and he doesn't know anything in China, and only have me as the friend. So yeah, we decided to do it seriously, and then yeah, it's been 10 years, and now there's many obstacles, but I think it's mainly about project obstacles, not agenda obstacles. Actually, it's never really crossed my mind that being a woman architect will be different from male architects. I think being architects is important to understand there shouldn't be double standard. And then as a female architect, you shouldn't thinking because you're a girl, so you get double standard. For example, guys can go to a site and girls doesn't want to go site. That's not acceptable because as an architect, you need to go to site. So I think as long as you ask yourself the same standard how you require yourself to be an architect rather than female and male, I think people would take you seriously, yeah. So I wouldn't think it will be otherwise, yeah.
So if there's one thing that practices can change, or especially the big practices can change, what would it be?
It starts with actually the leadership. I think if the leadership themselves are good examples, for example, we women, and we find that we want to encourage women architects to be, lead in the profession, then I think we become also a role model ourselves. And also, I think we have to provide a platform to support, our women architects. And we need to tell them, just be confident. Like in presentation, for example, in China, even in Asia, sometimes we still feel that the clients prefer to have a male to present. So it depends on which client. So we sometimes we'll say, okay, I think let's get a male to present. But at other times we feel that, no, I think she's a great presenter, let her present. And, we sometimes win the job, so sometimes it's also in our mindset that we have to change in terms of the perception.
You're right. You're very right. Perception, sometimes I have seen in my own experience, but also listening to a lot of women. I participate to a lot of debates like this. And sometimes the problem for us is perception. We are, in a way, it's been ingrained in us. And that's why I say it's an historic problem. But it's so ingrained that we should be, we are perceived as different, and that different is sometimes worse, but it's just, we feel that we start already feeling that we are sort of not what people expect. What we need to do, and this panel, what it's doing is actually showing the different doesn't mean better or worse. It means different, and that's what we need to. That's the message, that something different is possible and is good. In a creative profession, different is good.
We encourage diversity.
I think I would like to say something, because in our practice, we look at talents, we look at architects, and we never actually refer to a female or women architect ever. We believe that talents are how we actually project architecture. They are finally what we're trying to produce are great designs that suits everybody. And we find a lot of our talents actually are female, but we don't realize they're actually female. They're actually very good staff who are employed to do very good work. They are very imaginative, they are very mature, they're very detailed, and they do make great presentations. So I think for management-wise, it's about mentoring and making opportunities for them to make themselves shine, I think, within the company, and therefore become successful. I think that's what needs to be done. I think it just let them show their quality, and then the diversity is there, which Valeria is saying that diversity actually makes the practice more interesting and more successful.
That's very true, Ken. I think diversity really leads to innovation. And in architecture, it's very interesting for buildings. There's you can't really tell whether the building is designed by a male or a female.
Exactly.
You know, there's no such thing.
Exactly.
So you know, we are all because we are different. Therefore, we bring in a lot more creativity to architecture.
Actually, I want to ask all of you, if you're a student again, what would you say to yourself?
I study at Ballard. I don't think Ballard create architects. They create very creative, like, you know, students. But I think I understand how to be an architect at my job at Foster. I think it's a very good finishing school from a student to the architects. And so I think if I'm the student again, I'll say to myself, easier ways to start up your career in some well-established professional environment. Learn how to do architecture from the professional way, rather than figuring out yourself, because it will be more difficult to figure it out. And then see if there will be any opportunities. You know, you can always do whatever you want to do.
If I were a student again, right? Okay, it's a long time ago, and I studied architecture in Shanghai, Tongji University, and after that, I worked here for a year. Then I went to UK, went to London with my husband. At that time, with the intention to stay there for 9 months, just to experience the city and to learn English. I didn't plan to further study architecture, but I did very much wanting to explore. And by accident, actually, I went to South Bank University Business School and studied technology management. It's purely for curiosity, I'd say. I'm interested to understand how a complex project like a building or like a development project would be putting together successfully. And so if I were a student again, I would, if I choose to pursue architecture design, I will try my best to go to a good architectural school to study design, regardless whether in the end I would become a manager or a designer, because this career offers so much to individuals. You can become a lot of role and never be a dull moment. So I would, if I were a student again, I would like to study more art history or explore more related disciplines, maybe music, because we know that architecture is frozen music. So I would explore more rather than just architecture, which might help me to become a better architect.
Well, actually, architecture school itself is tough. You know, with a very long course, almost 5 years plus another year of internship. So it's especially, I think, for a female, with all the all-nighters. So sometimes I think, you know, I probably should have more wrinkles, but I'm still all right by now. So architecture is one profession, I think, that you really need to have the faith, with the passion. I think you really need to have faith in your passion, and also to believe in your unique talents. You really need to be gifted and be talented for architecture. And that's going to take you, you know, it's a long, very long journey. And also, I think you really have to really believe in yourself at a young age, to also be able to know what is going to make you successful. I think in terms of connections, in terms of networking, if I were to, you know, tell myself at that young age, I would start at that young age to think about, you know, the value of networking, because it's about, of course, clients, about bringing in projects. And I learned at a very young, early in my career from my husband about the power of networking. That is not what you know, but it's who you know. So this would also be my advice to a young architect. Yeah, and just, go for it.
And I think go back to my student age, I think I should say to myself to trust myself and to try more possibilities, because at that time I always think that I'm a good student on the science or engineering. I don't think I can be a good architect when I was in school. But it was very late that I found my talent, I think. So it's because I'm not that self-conscious, and I should convince more on my own. So if young guys, they can trust themselves more.
Yeah, I think having a mentor at a young age, like a role model, is very important in architecture, because then you look up to that mentor, and you know that you want to aspire to be that person in life.
That's very true. For me, I trained in Florence. I studied architecture in Florence, and that's where my passion for old building and heritage stems from. And if I could go back, I would enjoy it even more. And I would take my time to explore my passion more than I did. And I think as young students, we're very eager to become architects, to go into the profession, to prove something. I think I would be a lot easier on myself, and I would allow myself to enjoy being a student, because it's a time that gives you the invaluable option and it gives you the opportunity to actually explore your passion in a way that is not it's not framed into the constraint of a profession. So I would do that. And then I probably, as a young architect, I would say what some of you, in fact most of you, have said: trust your instinct, enjoy your passion, and be confident, because you have got your passion will drive you and will show who you are and what you're capable of. And stop doubting yourself, stop comparing yourself to others, because we're all different. Just build on your strength, and your strength is your passion, whatever that is, whether it's technology, whether it's the history of art, history of architecture, whether it's it's whatever it is, urban planning. Go with it and trust your instinct.
Wow, that's so inspiring, isn't it, Ken? I think the key takeaway points from all of these messages is that as a young student or a young architect like myself, we should really just keep exploring all of the different trajectories in this industry, but also with art and all different categories of design, and then just believe in ourselves.
Yes.
So fantastic, thank you. This time, because of COVID, the crisis that we're all in at the moment, we couldn't have a live audience, but we did collect some Q&A questions. Here we go. Number one, how to balance work and family, and how do you educate your kids when you're constantly not around? Any tips from the guests at the table?
All right, maybe I can start. Since I've got two kids, and one is in the university now. So my take on this is actually to keep you busy and spend less time on your kids. It's not a bad thing. As they don't want you to be around them all the time, because and you don't want you to be their helicopter parents. But that being said, for kids' education, I feel as a parent, as a mom, I'm still playing a very critical role especially at the primary school time. And you need to be engaged. A number of ways you could engage through participating school events. Actually, I was the PTA chairperson, a vice chairperson, for 6 years with my elder son when he was at his middle school, high school time. Through participating PTA event, I had a chance to know what's going on around him. So I think that's a good way to be engaged with your kids' education, but not really hand-holding him, which it's not possible anyway. So by keep yourself busy, that you will reduce confrontation with your kids. So not a bad thing. That you need to balance your engagement versus your attention to your kids.
Yeah, I have a young daughter. She's 3.5. I found it challenging to connect to her schoolwork. At the moment, she's in nursery, and then she's doing the Zoom class at home. And then I think I am one of the only mom in the same class who couldn't be there every day to help her with the Zoom class. I have to get a helper, addition to the IE, to help her with the class. I just don't believe people can balance between family and the work. It's a decision and a choice you make at the very beginning. You decided for your life. So I've decided I'm gonna how I treat my child is I think I treat her as an independent little person, and then I tell her how I work. And then I tell her how important she has also engagement. She has the schoolwork to do. I have my own job. So even now she's 3.5, she understands office and work. And she told me she wants to do work as well when she grows up. I think it's important to let her know we all have independent life. And then, because I couldn't be there 24/7 for her, so I don't want her to feel sad. It's nothing to be sad about, I think. Because But I really agree with Rebecca. For the time you can have with her, with the child, you have to make sure it's very quality time. But you know, men and women are different. Me and my husband both in the parents group, and currently they have this Zoom class. Every day you have to upload the assignment you do at work. He saw the same message at the same time I saw. I think he's more flexible than me, but then he never upload anything. I just, you know, as soon as I see something, I need to upload, and I need to see that little 5 minutes, maybe here and there, just to, you know, in the car somewhere, just to try to engage with her work. And then when I asked the dad, and dad just like, oh, I didn't see that. Obviously he saw it. But then I think, yeah, but then the daughter still, she's a lot more closer with the dad than mom. But I hope that period will be over soon. So, yeah. So my point is, it's not possible to balance. I think it's important to let the children know it's a choice, it's an independent choice. You should live with your choice. Yeah.
and one of my theory is by having a mom who has a busy working life, he get used to work with the female leader in future earlier.
Well, yeah, we're planting this in their minds.
Well, actually, yeah, I have two boys, teenage and another one at university. I think from young they're already used to me, you know, being a working mother, and also I used to also have to travel quite a lot when they were young. But I think at a young age, I think for children, mothers with young children, it's actually more difficult. But when the children go beyond a certain age and they're more independent, then I think it's a lot easier. So when they are younger, I think somehow, you know, with the right help, like what we mentioned earlier, the right caregiver, I think that really helps us a lot. And also prioritizing your time. I think to make sure that, you know, you do all the urgent things, and then whatever that is are not as essential, then you can leave it to the next day, and therefore then you are able to give more time to your family as well. Because I really do believe a right balance between work and taking care of the family is very important. And I also encourage my female architects to do the same when I see them working till very late, and some of them have young children. So I think also for me personally, I was actually attracted to when B+H asked me to join them at that time, because the culture of the company is very much more family oriented, in that it started from my chairman. My chairman had a very close family, and also with children and grandchildren. And if anything urgent happened to the family, he said, no, that's, you go and handle this before you go for your urgent client meeting, whatever. So I think that's something which really appealed to me at that time, and something which I carry on with me throughout my whole career with B+H.
For me, because I don't have children, so it's maybe it's more easier to handle, to balance the life and the work, because I was talking about the borderless lifestyle. So actually, I am having this kind of lifestyle. I like travel, and I like eatery. So what I have experienced my life, and then turn out to be part of my project. So for me, it's easy to balance. It's I think the architecture is the way that to describe what I have experienced my life.
I have to thank my wife.
Yes.
She has been amazing, and my family, of course. Couldn't have done anything without them. And I think for any practice anywhere, family first.
You must be a family man, Ken.
Architect working long hours.
But
We try.
yes, you try.
It's in reference to what Rebecca said earlier about having a spouse who is very supportive of you. I think that's really important, right? A spouse who understands that you are a career woman, and therefore I think who actually does sometimes spend time to also help with the children when the need arises.
So the next question is more about career development. This is from many of the students. So they would like to know, what are the career trajectories in architecture? What are the other things that they can explore within this profession?
Actually, to be an architect is the leading consultant of the design team. So I would say architect has a lot of component qualities, a lot of type of work around this job. So you could be a designer, you could be a manager, and you could also be a technical expert. So a lot of career paths you could choose. But that being said, I don't encourage the young architect who preset who you are. It's like Michelle said, she didn't find her to be like a design, such a talent in design until she tried, right? So don't limit yourself. Don't give yourself a boundary, and try all type of works associated with this career, this profession. Then decide which track you want to be, and just go for it. So I think it's too early to think about when you just graduate from architectural school.
So just try everything you can, and then see which one you do the best.
Yeah.
Sure.
And also the opportunities.
And anyone else got a comment?
One thing I think being an architecture student to be an architect is quite important is architecture is very, like you said, very comprehensive process of work and divided into many stages. At the beginning you need to talk to the client, and then it's about negotiation, communication as well. and then it's the design work, and then you have to do the drawings, and then it's be able to like detailing stuff, and then technical support as well, and then you have to be able to work with the people on site, and also sometimes, like you said, architect is the lead consultant, so you work with many other specialists at the same time, the contractor, project manager, etc., etc. So I often, in our practice, we're a small office, 10-ish people, but our turnover staff is actually quite good. People stay 2-3 years minimum, and we don't really have interns. It's because I think it takes about 12 months for people to get used to the system. And then how we started the office, we still follow the system we learned from Foster. So we still carry out the same way we've done work back then, and in the smaller practices. So I think, you know, the filing of stuff is very important, and how you archive stuff, how you record and in and out informations, because this is all part of your responsibility you'll be taking on many years. So now I can still be confident to say, I can find the stuff back 10 years ago in any project, the in and out information, because that's how we do stuff. Having said this, I think it's important for smaller practice to do this way. And also we tell our like our team members and the staff, I let them to try every stage of work. I let them to do concept stage, detail stage, construction work, on-site work. I wouldn't let anyone just focus on one stage of work, because I think it's important to experience the all stage of work to understand what architecture is really about, and then be able to make decisions later on. So if I see someone, sometimes we interview people, or they say, oh, I just want to do concept stage work, I wouldn't be interested in this type of CVs, because you haven't understand fully about architecture. I think that's very important, because architecture is not a single stage work. But of course, later on, when you've done all your job, and then you know you're very good in certain area, you can go forward, like you too, in certain area, be really good about it. But at the beginning, I think it's important to experience them all. Yeah.
You know, as architects, we also design in different sectors, and also, you know, depends on the firm that you join early in your career. Certain firms, they focus on certain sectors. And also, I think architects also tend to, in that specialize, some of the architects in certain sectors. Some prefer to be in mixed use or in commercial. Other architects, you know, early on in their career, perhaps they prefer to be in the hospitality design. And also right now, I think with community design in terms of healthcare, and also the aging population in terms of senior care, it's actually a very big opportunity out there. And I truly encourage the young architects in my company, because we actually do a lot of healthcare design. And I myself, actually, I learned healthcare at a much later stage, but I find it such a fascinating sector. And you know, in fact, architects who are very experienced in healthcare, actually they are in very high demand right now, because there are not as many of them. So therefore, you know, there are many different opportunities and sectors that you can go into.
I think in China, the education of architecture, it's mainly on the technical level, and I think if what can I suggest is pay more attention about the humanity and sociological disciplines, because I found that sometimes the architects is like a god, because we work with the capital, we work with the authority. We sometimes be like a god. We can define the life of the common people, but so maybe sometimes we go look down to the earth to observe the common life, come back to the ordinary life. Maybe it's a suggestion.
Couple words in that case. I think for young students, bubbling architects, don't be impatient, learn some skills, follow a passion, design your career, and become a member of the RIBA.
Sure, join us.
Recognized globally. Thank you.
Thank you all very much for joining the roundtable today. I think we've had some really in-depth conversations and then showed a lot of insights into, women as architects today. And we've also presented sort of a very comprehensive image of, different women at different stages of whether career or their family development and how we, deal with all this. So in a way, we presented sort of a very strong image of women as architects. So again, I'm really honored to be your host today. So this event marks the official launch of our RIBA China Chapter Women in Architecture Digital Nexus program. So this year, we will be organizing a themed exhibition called I'm Built by Women. So for more details and more exciting events in this program, please follow us on our RIBA China official public WeChat account and also RIBA Twitter. This whole recording will be available on our YouTube, so stay tuned for more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Well done.
Great job.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Perfect.